today with the 2023 Kia Niro. This is a prototype version of the Niro, and what we have here today is the niroev, as well as the Niro plug-in hybrid and the Niro hybrid. The big question I think everyone will have about the new Niro is, how does this really fit in with the Kia lineup now that we have the EV6, which is kind of the hot new electric car for Kia? And the answer is that this comes in at a lower price point. The pricing hasn't been yet announced, but we expect it to be quite undercutting the EV6. It's also a totally different type of vehicle. This is like a more kind of upright traditional crossover. And as I mentioned, this comes in not only a dedicated electric vehicle, but also the hybrid and the plug-in hybrid version. So I'll start off with this electric version. This electric Niro has 253 miles of all-electric range. It also allows for fast charging, and it has its charge port on the front. Now, unlike the EV6, which has the automated charging port, this one is manual. And as you can see in here, this is where you're going to charge the car. It does have the standard port right here, as well as fast charging. With the fast charging on the niroev, you're looking at about I believe just under an hour to charge from 10% to 80% battery. And again, that is a 253 mile range. And of course, it will tell you here how the charging is going with this indicator here. And I am going to cover this back up again. These are prototype models that they have here, so these are not the final US-spec versions. But as you can see, this car does have that kind of heartbeat daytime running light, which is similar to the K5 and other Kia models, but it kind of has its own style about it as well. The other thing you'll notice about all the Niros of this new generation is that they all have this kind of side blade, as well as a two-tone kind of cladding on the bottom at the front. So you'll notice that this gray panel back here does match the trim on the doors at the bottom and the front. And what Kia is really talking about with this side blade is the fact that it does help with aerodynamics, which allows you to get a little bit better range, because I don't know if you can see that, but it does have kind of an airway through the side blade to the back here, and that does help with aerodynamics. Also, they are really proud of that rear tail light, because it is very unique and slim, looks really cool. But note that those are just the brake lights at the top, and your turn signals and reversing lights are all in the lower bumper. Before I move on to the inside, I do want to show you some of the other Niro models that we have here. So starting with the hybrid. So this is the kind of more base model of the Niro, and this is the hybrid. It's going to be the least expensive Niro, although no pricing has been announced yet. And as you can see, it has a slightly different front end. It especially does not have the charging port, because this is a pure hybrid. It does not have any charging mechanism, but it is a 4-cylinder hybrid. And again, it does have that side blade in a separate color, and that same diverging color extends to the lower door trim and front trim. Other than that, pretty much all of the exterior is the same. Even in the hybrid, we still have that same look. And what you'll notice is that on hybrid versions, it has this badge that says HEV, and if you are very detail oriented, you'll notice that this E is the same font as the EV6. So that's kind of how it ties in with the range. I'm surprised they didn't maybe call this the EV3 or something, you know, like that, but they kept the Niro name. And again, this is the hybrid. version. Also, it's a little harder to tell on the hybrid. It does still have the tiger nose grille, but it's a lot more subtle. How I would say is that this top line, see how it kind of curves along here, that's kind of the top of your tiger nose grille, and then the bottom is just that little panel there. So it's a lot more subtle than previous tiger nose badging, tiger nose styling we've seen before. And then next we'll move on to the plug-in hybrid. And so the plug-in hybrid, this one does have a charging port, but it is in a different location than the full EV. It's on here, and this one does not come with the fast charging, but it is a plug-in, and it does have 33 miles of all-electric range, as well as that 4-cylinder engine to propel it. Again, the styling is almost identical to the hybrid as well as the EV, and the way that you can distinguish this one is that the badge here does say PHEV. Why don't we look in the interior of the EV? So this one is the EV, the top of the line. Again, no pricing yet, but we do know that it's going to be quite a lot less than an EV6. So this is the dashboard that you get on the new Niro EV. It shares its steering wheel with the EV6, and it is full of recyclable materials. So these seats are all made of recyclable materials. The headliner, if you can feel it, you can feel that it is made of recycled plastics. And then as we look at the dashboard again, Kia's latest kind of signature interior, we do have the gauge cluster here, as well as a 10.25 inch screen here, and some pretty cool ambient lighting over there. And then let me see if this one will turn on. Okay, there we go. So one thing that I like, I know other people have kind of talked about how they didn't like it, but I like how this panel kind of is multifunctional. So right now, because it's in the climate position, you get all of your climate controls right here. But if you do click on this little arrow, it changes everything that you see here to be more focused on the navigation. So you can hit map to see where you are, as well as, you know, controlling radio or media, things like that. I believe that this prototype has the previous version of Kia's infotainment, and I believe that there's a new one, so you might not see this in the new Niro, but for right now in this prototype version, that's what you get. And again, if you want to go back to climate, you can do that, and it's very, very easy to use, and I kind of like that feature. And then of course you do get wireless charging. The wireless charger is down here. You got USB-C, USB-A, and your 12 volt. The Niro EV also does get the controller, just like the EV6, as well as heated, cooled seats, heated steering wheel, auto hold, electronic parking brake. And also, similar to the Sportage, you kind of get this like huge cubby down here. If you do want to use that for cup holders, you just push these and they do become cup holders. So that's kind of cool because it gives you multi-use space right here. Then you have your armrest, which has additional storage space. So similar to the Sportage, and just pretty practical there. The Niro is also a lot bigger than it used to be. It's grown in every dimension. So that's our front seat, and similar to EV6 and Sportage, you do get the headrest like this with some extra storage in the back. But let's move on to the back. So most of the additional size that the Niro has grown has benefited the back seats. So there's plenty of legroom, as you can see in there. The headroom is great. In fact, in my opinion, the headroom is better than the EV6, because the EV6 has that sloped rear end, but the Niro is pretty upright there. So it does have its benefits. Also, as you can see, does have heated rear seats, so even though this is kind of the budget version of the EV, you do get a lot of creature comforts as well. Again, you can kind of hang your coat or something you want on here, and of course Kia's signature USB ports on the sides of the seats. These are USB-C. Other than that, not much to talk about back here. It is nice. This car, the sunroof is not panoramic. The sunroof is just a, you know, smaller fixed panel. Actually, I think it does open. It does open, but it is the smaller type. And the seats feel very comfortable. I know this is not leather, but they do a really good job of simulating the leather in here. And then finally moving on to the back, we do have our wiper there. It's not hidden under the top like some cars have. You'll also notice that the third brake light up here is the full width of the tailgate, so that's nice. And then opening up this, here we have our trunk space. So it's a little tight. I believe there's probably you know, additional storage down here, but it's definitely not a huge storage space, but it's probably good enough for whatever you need if you're getting a Niro. If you need additional space, the EV6 is slightly bigger, but not too much bigger. But as you can notice, like this floor is pretty high up. I think that's probably due to all the batteries that are in the lower half of this vehicle. One other thing you'll notice is that on the EV, it actually does not state that it's an EV. It just says Kianiro, whereas on the hybrid and plug-in hybrid, it is going to call that out in the badging. I also like how on this white one they've actually have the silver side blade and trim, so not just all black. So it looks nice. Definitely not as desirable as the EV6, but you know, if the price is right, then this may be your next new electric vehicle. The other thing I asked them about, because I know that right now we're currently having some supply chain issues, there's some concern about shortage of materials needed to make batteries. So I did ask them if the batteries that are in this Kia Niro EV will take capacity away from the EV6. They mentioned that these batteries are completely different in design, and they are not shared with the EV6, and so they believe that there will not be, they won't be making Niros instead of EV6s. They can handle the capacity for both vehicles. And unfortunately, the Soul EV is kind of dead in the water at this point. So if you're looking for a small Kia electric crossover and you don't want to spend the money that an EV6 requires, this Niro may be what you're looking for. Again, this one is the hybrid. This one is the plug-in hybrid. And the all-electric 253-mile 2023 Kia Niro EV. Thanks everyone for watching. My name is Kevin Rooney and I'm with thekoreancarblog.com. See you next time.